Welcome everyone to 100 Days Palworld Dark. The days are short, the nights are long, and I can only capture dark pals. Will I survive and thrive in this shadowy land? After arriving once again on the Palpagos Islands, I got to work gathering basic resources, but this time something was a bit different. It was nighttime. Normally you spawn in and it's bright and early in the morning, yet the land was covered in the cold embrace of night. I couldn't dwell on this fact, however, and began crafting a workbench to get started on my journey. While my guide Dark is crafting, I'll explain some rules for this playthrough. I can only catch and use dark pals, but hybrid pals aren't completely off the table, they just have to be dark in some way. This means my base might be severely hindered later on. The day cycle has been reduced to only a few precious hours to allow me to gather things in the sunlight before it becomes night again. I tried to get the daylight to completely go away, but it didn't work, and modding this game is completely out of my skills repertoire. Ultimately, I just want to see how far we can get in 100 days with these limitations. So with that being said, I ran down the windswept hills gathering things as I went, and I had a chit chat with this islander that gave me a few palladium fragments to get me started on making some pal spheres. And I needed a battle pal. I had the perfect one in mind, a Depresso. As the sun rose briefly on day 2, I crafted more pal spheres and hunted for wool, eggs, and meat. I also managed to catch 2 Depresso to get me started, and this daydream. In my travels, I opened up this chest, and it contained gold. Gold would be very useful in this playthrough since I couldn't use a ranch for chicken eggs and milk. I was gonna make a dad joke here, but my sense of humor doesn't exist. Just like my dad. Oh. I also got some ancient bread from this chest. I'm sure I'll be fine if I ate it, right? Nothing bad could happen. And then I found this tablet containing rich Palworld lore. That, say it with me, I'm waiting. Yes, that's right, I will never read. Well done. After scampering around the windswept hills, I grew self-conscious and made myself a very stylish set of clothes to keep the pals from laughing at my ween. It's just cold, okay? It's the middle of October, can you blame me? Speaking of which, these clothes will keep me warm while I roam around at night. Are you afraid of the dark? I'm not. But I also made this torch to help us see a bit better as well. My torch was feeling a bit lonely, so I made it some friends, like Picky the Pickaxe, and Axie the normal axe. I don't even know what I'm writing anymore, okay? First thing into day 3, I crafted myself a feathered headband, and this would somehow protect my brain case from heavy damage, and after that I was finally ready to venture into the world. While running along the beach, I found this cave and entered it, not knowing what I would find inside. Right at the cave entrance, I ran into 2 kitties called Meow. Meow? They're black cats, okay? And I thought they were cute, so I coaxed one into joining my team, and the other one got stuck on top of this rock, but that worked out in my favor quite well, and I caught this one too. So one thing I didn't mention in my last Palworld 100 days, there are these flowers that grow in dungeons. You pick these and convert them into serums at a medical bench. These serums raise your player stats permanently, such as like strength, stamina, carry weight, etc. But for now, it's just an oversized flower that I folded up and stuffed into my pocket. One pal I was keeping my eyes peeled for was a Kilomari. This little squid guy acts as a glider. I don't really care much for the crafted gliders in this game, so this little guy would come in handy for a bit later. I caught it. I spent the rest of the day running around this cave, and I got lost for a moment. But right as the clock hit day 4, I found the final boss in this dungeon, and it was an alpha Direhowl. It's a shame, because Direhowl are amazing ground mounts in the early game, but this Direhowl stood between me and my end dungeon loot, so Depresso and I got to work taking them out. After a few minutes of fighting and a few close calls, we claimed our prize. I didn't get anything too noteworthy outside of this defense pendant, and maybe some schematics I can sell. Later on, I ran across this Tombat, and this guy was a really cool Halloween aesthetic type pal, and I liked it, so I wanted to catch him. They also double as fantastic stone farmers as well. After catching that Tombat, I ran into this random syndicate thug, and he wanted to have a roughhouse with yours truly. So to answer his call to battle, I stole his Lee's punk and fed him to my Depresso. After picking that syndicate thug clean like a rotisserie chicken, Depresso wanted some dessert, so we stopped at this skill fruit tree. These give new abilities to pals. However, this time it didn't have anything too noteworthy growing on it. On day 5, I climbed to the top of this mountain to get an idea of where I was. You see, I wanted to make my base on Sakurajima, you know, the island. In my last 100 days video, I went there halfway through the video, but this time I wanted to settle there. The only problem is getting there. And since my map still had the fog of war, I got a bit lost. But from the summit, I could just make out the spires of Sakurajima in the distance, and began my descent back down. Unfortunately, I grossly misjudged the sheer steepness of this cliff and ate rock for breakfast. When I respawned back in, I rushed to farm some lamb balls to make myself a glider. I honestly don't know why I didn't make one before setting off, but we'll just chalk that up to a learning experience. Just ignore the fact I've played this game for 400 days. While I was here, I also made myself a swatter, also known as a baseball bat. The ultimate bonker. Gonna have to use it on me when I get near Lovander. Alright, now that my audience has left, the hunter has become the hunted. With my new equipment in hand, I ran most of the night to get my stuff back. Let me explain why I'm still wearing my armor after death. In a previous Palworld playthrough off camera, I had a full set of plasteel armor and a bunch of high-tech weapons like the laser rifle and other very expensive endgame stuff on me. I had died with all that gear, and my death bag ended up being in a place where I couldn't grab it, so I enabled the keep armor and pals upon death. It just makes this playthrough a bit more bearable. Okay? Day 6 had quickly snuck up on me, and somehow I made it to the bamboo groves. This area seems tranquil on the surface, but deep in the bamboo grove lies dangerous pals, like Arsox, who charges you on a moment's notice, ready to pancake you into Okonomiyaki Osaka style. So I grabbed this fast travel just in case that did happen. A little ways, not too far from a fast travel location, a meteor crashed down to Earth. And that meant Xenovator. They're a new pal that came out with the Sakurajima update. Quickly, I rushed over and found some Syndicate thugs fighting the Xenovators. There was some pesky Direhowl too. I did give them a hand, dealing with the Syndicate lackeys, and narrowly avoided a swift trip to the respawn. But with ninja-like reflexes and absolute finesse, we managed to get both Xenovators, a male and a female, so that meant I could breed some crazy pals later. Maybe. Night once again crept over the land, and right away I saw Cognito. These guys can harvest trees for you, so I wanted to catch it. When I engaged this little fella in combat, he pulled the most anime move on me and teleported behind me, nearly killing me in the process with an attack. This surprised me because I had no idea Cognito had a teleport attack, but I ended up catching it and quickly continued back on my journey. A bit further from the Cognito battle, I found a loot moon and decided to catch this guy too. He was keen on not coming with me though. I could tell because he almost killed me. But I am the main character, so of course I won this scrap and it joined my little ragtag team. After wandering aimlessly in the dark, I found the Relaxosaurus Lux boss arena. This guy and I go way back, and I'll fight him a bit later. On the morning of day 7, I threw dignity out the window and started digging in a trash pile to collect an item called Dog Coin. With Dog Coins, you can spend them at a special merchant for stat serums and various other cosmetics. When I was watching my latest Palworld video, I said that I didn't even try to collect the coins, so this time I thought I would. For science, of course. I also wanted to buy a Catress hat, but I didn't get any coins from this trash pile. I just got a key and some Mega Pal Spears. I was cutting diagonally through the land at this point. There was another dark pal I was after before heading to Sakurajima. This pal was called Fellbat. And since this is a dark-only playthrough, and Halloween is only a few weeks away, I must have this pal. Naturally, I stumbled upon another skill fruit tree, and this one didn't have anything too crazy on it. After harvesting the fruit, I continued on. I eventually made it to the Quiveryn boss arena, marking the halfway point of this journey. I was near the coast of the island, and I would eventually have to swim across the ocean to get to the Fellbat boss arena. Finally, as the sun rose, the journey had come to an end, and I stood outside the Fellbat boss arena, but I couldn't engage it just yet. You see, I didn't spend the better half of a week in Palworld running across the Palpagos Islands just to die in a dungeon and reset back to the start on the windswept hills. Oh no sir. I needed to find a fast travel node before I fought this Fellbat. I swam across the sea and snagged this fast travel and went back to engage the Fellbat boss. Right as I spawned in, it was rushing at me, and it didn't give me much time to formulate a battle plan. So I just did what I normally do in these fights. Ran around screaming while my pals whittled its health down into capture range. The Fellbat boss did get me a few times, and I cut it way closer than I wanted to. In a panic, I threw a Hail Mary Pal Spear and managed to catch it. When the Pal capture jingle sounded, I breathed a deep sigh of relief and left the boss arena in high spirits. This fight took up most of day 8, so it's a bit of a shorter day today. Day 9, and I was almost to Sakurajima Island. I just had to make it to the coast and I was home free, so to speak. The only roadblock on my current path were the Syndicate. These guys were crawling all over this island, and I had to sneak by. I wasn't really scared of the smaller Syndicate guys, no. I was afraid of the Syndicate heavies, you know, the guys with the big machine guns, the large fellows with the Gatling guns. If one of them saw me and started attacking attacking, they would just stun lock you to death, and there's really nothing you can do about it. But luckily for me, I made it past this camp with no issues whatsoever. I could see Sakurajima better now, and the sand dunes marked my arrival to the land of the Sakura trees and the angry moonflower Genin. I also ran across another fast travel beacon, which is fantastic because Sakurajima Island, for those of you who don't know, is an endgame area. Most, if not the majority of pals and enemies on that island are level 40 and above. I'm only level 20 and some change. You don't need to do the maths to know that I would be sliced into bonito flakes. As I'm writing the script, in my notes it says I met a wacky dude. I have no idea what I'm talking about, so this will be a surprise for the both of us, mostly because I'm too lazy to look at the footage. So, surprise, I guess, viewers and Glahm. Eventually, I made it to the coast and took to water like a graceful bonito. I took it very slow. I didn't want to die in the middle of the ocean with no way of getting my garbage back, but luckily, I ate my breakfast that morning, because the swim wasn't too bad at all, actually. When I arrived on the shores of Sakurajima Island, I rose from the cold ocean waters like Godzilla and made a beeline for another fast travel beacon, narrowly avoiding 2 Wixen knocked. I really wanted to catch one, but in this moment, I had to be pragmatic and face reality. Catching them was still a long ways off. I didn't want to hang around on the beach for too long because scary things spawned out here, like the gory rat Terra. When I ran across these two, I thought I avoided them by giving them a wide berth, but it turns out they could smell my fear. I threw Hootkrates at them as a sacrifice and ran the opposite direction as fast as I could. As you'd expect, they made very short work of Hootkrates, and I almost made it to safety until one of the gory rat Terra hit me with a boulder, turning me into lasagna on this cliff. I eventually got my things back and continued on my journey, and deeper into the island I activated a very important travel beacon. This one was in the center of the island, and it's right next to the boss tower, so if I died again, I would be able to spawn in a centralized location, making a trip to my backpack much shorter. As I was running around searching for potential base locations, another meteor crashed down, and the way meteors work is that there's a chance a unique pal would spawn in depending on your location. On the mainland, you'd normally get Xenovader, which I didn't need at this time. On Mount Obsidian, you'd have a chance to spawn a Xenoguard, which is the dragon version of Xenovader. And on Sakurajima Island, there's a chance that a Saline would spawn in, which in this case it did. A huge level 50. The only problem is the Syndicate thugs that were supposed to spawn in didn't. I was hoping to swoop in at the last second to catch it when its health got low. With a heavy heart, I left the Saline and went to my favorite spot on Sakurajima Island, which was this shrine, guarded by wandering Bushi Noct and Yakumo statues. When I opened this chest on the porch, I was rewarded with 2 Ultra Spheres. Needless to say, this was insanely busted. These are the final tier of normal PAL walls before we get into the legendary tier. I wasn't complaining though. I'll take all the help I can get. Day 11, and I was doing what I normally do, and that's root around in a pile of trash, more than likely housing sharp objects. As they say, fortune favors the bold, and for my outstanding act of bravery, I was rewarded with 2 legendary PAL Spears. These are the end-all, be-all when it comes to PAL Spears, the absolute end game. At this time, I'm only level 20, so this was a huge boon, and trust me, I would be putting these to excellent use a little bit later. In my script, it says Winky Face. I don't know why I put that. You boils and ghouls can't even see my facial expressions. The wackiness of day 11 wasn't done with me. As I was running around looking for more delicious piles of refuse to pilfer, I ran across this Chillette hiding in a tree. I asked him for a pearl of wisdom. For a moment, the arbor-bound Chillette paused to think before uttering the phrase, "Forgiveness is divine, but never pay full price for pizza." I don't know what he's talking about. I couldn't think too long on these words of wisdom. I had more piles of garbage to loot. Eventually, after running around the Sakura forest all day, I grew tired and decided to settle here. This place didn't really have any metal resources available, but it did have coal, so I think that's an acceptable trade-off. On the start of day 12, I spent a few minutes and took the time to unlock things in the tech tree that I needed to get my base established. I didn't realize I completely skipped making a PAL box. I very quickly fixed that minor problem and threw down some storage chests to boot. My inventory was jam-packed from garbage that I had been collecting up until this point, and I finally hit critical mass. After dropping off my trash, I took a moment to upgrade my PAL box a few levels and summoned my new employees. As I was taking stock of my situation, I saw a wandering merchant and perused his wares. Then an idea struck. In Palworld, it's generally frowned upon to capture humans, but having an on-call merchant/butler would be quite useful. I know know I said that this was a playthrough using only dark pals, but humans aren't pals, so therefore it doesn't count. My palms began to sweat, my pupils dilated as I reached for the pal spear. The merchant, who was already very weary of me, knew what was going on. Before he could react, my stupid Fellbat finished him off, ruining my chance at capturing him. But in all reality, the fault was mine. I had legendary spears and I forgot to use them. Oops, what a scatterbrain I am. Oh well, I can't dwell on that now. I needed resources to get my base started, so after farming a bit, the good old-fashioned way, I placed the foundations down for a logging camp and a stone camp. I didn't have the PAL power to run these things at full capacity yet, but at least they're there and they will work in a pinch. It'll save me from having to march back and forth from the Sakura forest on top of the hill to get wood. On day 13, I returned to the windswept hills to hunt pals for crafting components, mostly these little lamb balls for wool and these chickens for eggs and meat. One issue that has reared its ugly head is that I will be in short supply of cloth for this playthrough until I can get my gold farms under control. We'll cross that bridge when we get there, but for now I had to do things the good old-fashioned way. No living creature in the shape of a sphere was safe from my wrath. I spent the majority of the day gathering as much as I could until nighttime came around. Since the pals I needed were daytime pals, I conceded for now. As a final prize, I happened across this ginormous dark egg. I wanted to hatch it as soon as possible, but I lacked the tech points to unlock the incubator. For now, I returned to base and made some mental preparations to fight Zoe. I felt in my bones that it was time, and I needed those ancient technology points as well. One of the requirements to level up my base was to craft a bed. The almighty Pal Box commanded me to do so. I got the bed crafted on top of a shoddy wooden platform. I didn't plan on sleeping much in this playthrough, so this bed was kind of useless for me. I appeased the Pal Box and I was finally allowed an upgrade, which in turn allowed more pals to toil for my own betterment. Alas, the Pal Box demanded more from me. Turns out you actually have to feed pals, so I conceded and made a small feed box as well. Currently, I was running low on wood, and I had the perfect pal for the job, this Cognito, that I had caught almost a week ago. Wow, how time flies when you're having fun. I grabbed the Cognito and threw it at the logging camp, and it got to work. I had nothing better to do, so I just chilled at base until I had a decent stockpile of wood built up, and I crafted some pal beds. These are kinda useless too, since my pals were mostly nocturnal, but yeah, whatever. I just need to level up my pal box so it won't complain. I am a very compliant man. We also needed a stable food source, and with haste, I placed down a berry crop plot and began planting seeds and watered it. As I was scraping away in the dirt, I heard an all too familiar whistle from the sky. This signaled that good things were coming my way, so I watched the compass to see where it landed. I ran over to the spot where the supplies had landed and prepared for combat. Usually, a few Syndicate goons guard the supply drop when it lands, and since we were on Sakurajima Island, they would be at least level 40 plus maybe. Mentally, I steeled myself for the battle ahead, and when I arrived, there was nothing. It was completely unguarded. I absolutely will not complain, and this loot was fantastic to boot. It had some vitality elixirs, and if you guys remember the giant flowers that I got in that dungeon a while back, because you've been paying attention, right? These elixirs are those very same flowers that have been run through an electrical medical station, so getting them for free was a much welcomed boost. It also contains some oil, and a crafting pendant that boosts my own crafting speed by a little bit, so I'd say this supply drop was really worth it. I noticed that I was close to the meteorite as well, and I ran over to check if that level 50 Celine was still there. Luckily for me, she still was. And I'm a betting man as well, so I picked out my legendary Pal Spears and threw a Hail Mary mother of all Pal Spear throws. Could I actually clutch out a catch with a meager 3% chance of capture? Time froze as I watched the PAL capture meter rise. 3%, 24%, 100%. No way I just caught that. Still, a level 20 Ragamuffin with a level 50 endgame Celine, it's deliciously broken. I wonder what crazy things we'll get up to in the next few days. Just you wait, winky face. Since the fallen meteor wasn't guarded anymore, I helped myself with some of these fragments too. I still have no idea what they're really used for outside of ammo for a meteor launcher, but something compelled me to collect as much as I could carry. As I readied for the trip back to base, I peeked at my current levels and noticed that capturing Celine leveled me up 3 times. When I returned to base, I saw a Ronin walk in like he owned the place. I didn't want to lose my life or my bento box to this man, so I gave him a wide berth and stood aside as he cut through the center. Shaken by my brush with death itself, and fearing a sharp blade in my stomach, I decided that now would be an excellent time to build some protective walls. After waiting a minute or two for my wood farm to fill up, I began placing a few walls down. It's not much, but it's better than nothing, right? Usually, up on a hill, Yakumos spawn, and they're very aggressive little doggies that can harness the power of the sun to smite you down. And since I'm roleplaying as a vampire, that would not be good for me. At this time, I would imagine most of my pals are pretty famished, and I was too lazy to farm berries, so I decided to fry up some eggs for my pals. The more time that passed meant the higher the likelihood that my pals would turn around and eat me. That doesn't actually happen as a game mechanic, but it does happen in Palworld lore. Yeah, you see, I've actually been paying attention to the lore somewhat. These cutesy little guys eat humans, who knew? On day 16, I started off right, and I finally created a set of gloves to allow me the ability to use my Kilomari as a makeshift glider. Pals make for better gliders. Even better than the ones you craft. They also use significantly less stamina, I think. I don't know, I could just be making this all up. Convinced that I'm right, let me check Google real quick. Yep. From what I can read online, I am correct in all accounts. Wow, good job, Glahm. A stopped clock is right at least 2 times a day. Back near the Syndicate Tower, I decided to clear out a Syndicate encampment. They were a blight on the landscape, and quite frankly, I wanted to see what my newly caught Celine could really do. As it turns out, she's able to solo an entire camp in less than 10 seconds. When the coast was clear, I rescued this Nox from a holding pen, which is good for me because it saves me the time having to look for it out in the wild. We're deep into the video now, but I made a goal for myself to at least attempt to catch all the Dark Pals. Bella Noir Liberio as the exception, of course. There's just no way I could do that. I could make a laundry list of excuses on why not and how come, but in all honesty, I'm lazy. Curious. I made my way over to Chilette to test out the Celine even further. With one moonbeam, she microwaved this Chilette in seconds flat. I really didn't even have to do anything, but I was not satisfied yet and decided to pay a visit to an old rival, Pen King. Let's just say, we committed regicide and put Pen King on ice. Look, that was a double pun, okay? If that doesn't deserve a like, I don't know what does. Also, if you made it this far in the video, leave a comment saying zoinks to keep up with the Scooby-Doo themed comments. It's fitting, since the best holiday is right around the corner. And I'll select one random winner to be the pinned comment. You will become renowned and loved by every stranger that sees this video, and you'll have my undying gratitude. What a win-win. Enough of that now. We have to pay a little visit to yesterday's waifu. Sorry, Zoe, nothing personnel, but Seiya is just better. I didn't really have to do much of anything for this fight either. Celine just mopped up shop with her beams and her fantastical lights, and we were one tower boss down. I will also just say right now that I don't know if I'll be able to do all the tower bosses, but we'll see. Day 17, and I started the day with the sudden realization, since I won't be taming any water pals in this go-around, structures like the Crusher would be all but useless to me. I would still need to build one to upgrade my pal box. I couldn't dwell on such trivial things like that for now. I had more important matters at hand. I needed to gather pallium fragments regardless of how far up the creek I was without a paddle. So I farmed some pallium fragments by an actual creek. That joke sounded way funnier in my head. After a grueling day of doing things the good old-fashioned way, I managed to painstakingly build a single hot tub. Usually I like to build 2 to accommodate multiple pals, but I just got this one, and they better be grateful, those little back. Day 18. Cognito was suffering from a bad case of I don't want to work anymore, so I tried to remedy his outlook by throwing him into a hot tub. You know, add some carrots, potato slices, and a dash of bouillon, and we got ourselves a proper meal here. Anyway, that act of kindness saved my Cognito from having a mental breakdown, and he got right back to work. Today was mostly just hanging around the base for the most part. I placed down an Anubis statue to help us grow even stronger. Then I placed down this Crusher, and these structures would once again allow me to upgrade my pal base even further. The omnipotent pal box then demanded I build a furnace to smelt metal, which I can already tell will be a massive hang-up in the days to come. I'm writing the script as I play, so who knows what the next 10 days will look like. Also, note to self, hire an editor. I'm not the strongest of writers. Sometimes my script comes off as really hard to read even for me, but I'm glad you guys enjoy my videos regardless. Script padding aside, I was woefully low on flame organs, which I needed to build said furnace. The only way to get these is to defeat fire pals or buy them from the market. I would put a pin in this endeavor for now, and I finally crafted myself an egg incubator so I could hatch that dark egg from days prior. And since we finally had a bit of a lull in, I unlocked more essentials and made a heap of pickaxes to farm metal for the rest of the day. When I got back on day 19, I threw all of the metal I had farmed into a chest and decided to undertake a Palworld 100 Days Rite of Passage, the low-level trip to Mount Obsidian. At the foot of the mountain, there is a small fishing village that sells a lot of useful items, and since I would heavily rely on gold, the sooner I unlocked that small shanty town, the better. So off I went, running through the hills, wind at my heels and a pep in my step. Running this immense distance took up most of the day, so I'll see you guys on day 20. After some intense leg work, here we are, Mount Obsidian. I forgot that volcanoes tend to get really hot and got turned into yakitori. Well, bugger. This puts a crimp in things, doesn't it? Right. Cue the travel music. And just like that, on the horizon of day 21, we made it safe and sound to the small fishing village. Man, that took a long time. It's probably a few seconds for you guys at home, but when I look at the footage, this took around a good 40 minutes both times. When the sun came up on the small shanty, I procured for myself some heat-resistant pelt armor and an undershirt. Then I wade back to my base to hatch this dark egg that contained a tombat. Kind of underwhelming, I know. It had a huge buildup, but this is what it is. I didn't get to enjoy being home for too long, however. I wanted to unlock another trading post, and here I am gliding over to the small settlement in the hills. I didn't stay for too long, I was broke, so I went back to Sakurajima Island. Apparently, there was a supply crate that I had missed, and I decided to check it out. The loot was decent. I got a really nice thermal shirt and a rocket launcher blueprint that I would put to good use later. Spoiler alert, no I wouldn't. My pals were telling me that they were starving. Food was becoming a huge issue that would always rear its ugly head. I thought about breaking my challenge and just giving up and taming a water pal, but for you guys, I held myself accountable, and I didn't do it. With a little bit of elbow grease and some time, I got more berries planted and watered them. Hopefully, it would buy me some time until I can get our small famine under control. To alleviate the situation, I sought out to tame stronger pals. I still lacked one that had the kindling ability, and that would allow me to smelt metal, and it would help me cook berries. Cooked berries help restore pal sanity just a little bit. Normally, I would just feed them either toast with jam or salad, but this was very, very far away still. As I was running around the island at night looking for pals and trash piles to rummage, I found a Wixen knocked, and managed to catch it by a miracle. My palms were sweating really bad as I attempted this. I caught it with a 2% chance of capture rate. Now that is some insane luck. But that Wixen knocked was nothing compared to this Bushi knocked that I caught. I had no idea these guys could summon void tornadoes. This is one of the new abilities that came with the Sakurajima update, and as you can imagine, it absolutely wrecks shop. So getting hit by it would send me packing to an early grave. A little ways from that Bushi knock, I tried to catch the Shroomer knock. I absolutely needed this guy at my base. He would plant berries for me as well as harvest them, so all I had to do was water my crops and forget about it for a little while. However, the Shroomer knocked planted me in the ground instead because I was dead. I really fumbled the bag with this one. On the way back to pick up my things, I found another egg that was sitting up here on the ledge. I made my way over to collect it and narrowly avoided becoming worm food yet again. I also tried to catch another Shroomer knock and failed quite stupendously. Just look at that wipeout. Honestly, I was just having a dog's breakfast of a time trying to get my stuff back. Like right here. Yes, I died yet again. I'm not having a whole lot of luck today, it would seem. I spent it in the days prior. Maybe we should just try again tomorrow. There was some silver lining on day 24 though. I got my little claws on another supply drop, and the best thing from this was a life pendant that would increase your hit points. I'm sure I could find a use for this. I even found another dark egg while I was roaming the wilds. Little did I know that my luck would improve drastically. I managed to finally catch a Shroomer knocked. Yes, all of my hard work, scrounging, suffering, and scraping was finally paying off. With this little guy, I could plant crops more efficiently, and my food shortage might just be over yet. While the iron was hot, I decided I would get myself a ride as well. I was good and sick of running around on foot everywhere, and I had a pal in mind specifically for this job. I wanted to try and catch a mare wraith. I have a few reasons why I want one. One, it looks spooky and Halloween themed. And that's it actually. Do I really need any other reasons? Day 25 and I don't have much to report. I was running around and found another dark egg that we would hatch later. When I say I was running around, I really mean it. I spent a good part of the day just wandering the land. So we're just gonna hop into day 26, feet first. On day 26, I spotted this Vanworm Christ hanging out in the trees, and I thought to myself, well, that would be quite the catch. So I gave it everything I had. Literally. I wasted all of my legendary pal spheres trying to catch this stupid thing. It eventually noticed me, and well, that's a wrap on day 26, ladies and germs. I had spent the entire day of night 27 taking constant L's, but through 10% luck, 20% skill, and 15% concentrated power of will, I managed to get a fast travel unlock in the mountains. This particular one was very important because if I died, I wouldn't have to climb the mountain, and I could get to where the mare wraith spawned easier, so this made things a little bit better. I think anyway. It sure didn't feel any easier. With a little bit of time spent searching, I found another mare wraith, and as you would expect with how things are going for me in this 100 days, it did not go so well. With my tail between my legs and my pride being held together by shoestring and prayers, I resorted to sorting through trash, hoping I could find more legendary pal spheres. I was still sorting through garbage into day 28 like some kind of crazed raccoon. Eventually, I got bored of sorting refuse, so I returned back to my base to check on my pals. It had been a while since I was here, and I'm sure they managed just fine without me. Surely, right? Nothing bad would happen? They were once again on the brink of starvation, and I'm genuinely surprised they didn't eat each other yet for sustenance. So quickly, I rallied the help of my shroomer, and we got to work planting some quick-fix berries. It wasn't much, but it would have to do for now. While doing chores around the base, a wandering merchant had carelessly wandered into my spider web, and I caught him. As I prattled on about my wandering merchant, this Bushi Noct wandered in, and this was the defining moment in my entire playthrough. This Bushi Noct activated his Bankai and set my entire base on fire, leaving me in ruins. The game pleaded with, begging me to let loose a water pal to quell the roaring flames that soon engulfed my base, but I couldn't. All I could do was watch as the fires of vengeance turned my base into a smoldering pile. Yeah, just kidding. I just entered build mode, deleted the structures that were on fire, and rebuilt them. No harm, no foul, no fuss, no muss. It's been an entire month in Palworld, and I'm just now putting up some defensive walls. That Bushi was the wake-up call I needed to get things into gear and lock it in. I started making good progress on my wall, but I eventually had to stop and wandered off and did something else. Like getting my stuff back that was sitting up here in the frozen tundra for a few days. Really glad no one came by and stole it. Not that anyone would. This is a single-player world. Just in case anything like this would happen again, I unlocked another fast travel. And as you'd imagine, the same thing did indeed happen again. I died to another mare wraith. I'm about to forego taming this thing altogether if I'm being honest. It's just really starting to irritate me. All of my gear was in shambles at this point, so I retreated back to base to make some much needed repairs. I also wanted to drop off all the loot that I have been gathering over the last week or so, and get these dark eggs hatched finally. Maybe I'd get lucky and get a Hell Zephyr, or a mare wraith would pop out of one. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. At this point, I really didn't have much else to do, so I just started digging around in trash piles again for the rest of the day and the night. I should have called this 100 days video, I spent 100 days in the Alaskan Palworld, since the sun only rises for a few minutes and sets right away, leaving the cold embrace of the long night. I should really watch 30 Days of Night again. That is such a great movie. In fact, I might just do that while searching through trash piles. Right on the start of day 32, I hatched another Cognito. It sprung from the egg, eyes bright, ready to start its new life, full of gusto. So I crammed it into the PAL box and forgot all about it. Then I was back at it again, rooting through trash piles and opening chests, farming those good old PAL spheres. I got really lucky today, but my luck would soon run out. When the sun went down, I headed over to the mountains to capture something. A mare wraith, a Vanworm Christ. I managed to catch this Vanworm Christ with one of the worst passives in the game. No matter, I have a few good pal spheres left. Catching another one shouldn't be too much of an issue, right? Yeah, I threw all of my really good pal spheres trying to catch this thing, and then I was back at square one. As I was headed home, I ran into a group of mare wraith, so I figured I'd just roll the dice and see what happens. With great conviction, I threw my pal spear blessed by the gods and caught a mare wraith right as I bought the farm. Hey, at least I caught one, and I never have to try this ever again. When I got back to base, an egg I had been incubating was ready to hatch, and I was blessed with this menacing. Yeah, they're pretty decent woodcutters actually, so not too bad, I think, anyway. I was excited about the Merwraith I had caught, and I took a peek at it in the PAL box, and I noticed, oh no, pacifist. Great. Oh well, I'm sure it's not that bad. I was just happy to have something to ride. Merwraith and I were going to soar through the clouds of Palworld and search for trash from the comfort of the air. So I got to work crafting a saddle right away. Once the saddle was complete, I mounted Merwraith, pressed spacebar, and then a jump. A jump? Merwraith doesn't even fly? I was devastated. The wind got knocked out of my sails and the steam died out. Still, I carried on and found another dark egg that we'd hatch as soon as possible. The highlight was finding 2 legendary spheres, so there's the silver lining at least. Merwraith doesn't even fly. Day 34, I swear if I keep rooting around in trash piles, I'm gonna get tetanus. How have I not hit a rusty nail yet? But yeah, I was still digging through trash. Long-time viewers of my channel will know that I absolutely love Transformers.
They call me worthless wreck-walking pile of garbage.
I stopped for a moment because I saw this Hell Zephyr. Man, now that is a flying mount. So, I have to have it. Yeah, I got it. What did you expect? Did you expect me to be hit with absolute disaster? Hey, look, okay? Sometimes some things go my way. Sometimes. Yeah. Well, since I got this really good pal, I figured I'd try and catch something else that was really cool. Allow me to introduce Sootseer. Sootseer is a really good jack-of-all-trades, master-of-none kind of pal. Like the golden retriever in real life, this is the golden retriever of Palworld. A good all-rounder that will help around the base. All I had to do was catch it, and that was easier said than done, because there was an astronomical gap between my levels and its levels. As you can probably imagine, things did not go well for me. Oh yeah, ooh. Yikes. Well, Glahm, pick yourself back up and head back home. You got a pal egg to hatch. This dark egg that I had been incubating hatched into the popular Catress, and it was really cute. I'm used to seeing the hulking alpha version of this pal, so it was really new seeing it at a very small scale. Yeah, I can dig it. After mulling around base for a bit, I noticed that my coffers were running quite low. I needed cash, baby. I wanted to see if I could pull off a get-rich-quick scheme on this black market merchant. Usually, you can string these guys up and light a fire under them, and they usually yield gold coins and keys for chests. This time, however, I didn't expect him to walk backwards away from my trap. And he got me down. Alright, let's try that again. Why do I even bother? Day 36. Short day today. Here's the footage of me getting washed by Sootseers. Yep, that was all of day 36. At this stage in the game, I was feeling really lost. I had no direction, I was wandering aimlessly around Palworld. Heck, I couldn't even grow a decent crop of berries to keep my pals from starving to save our lives. What was I gonna do? After searching for the answer, I reached deep within my soul and found a solution. I just needed to level. I needed to get it in gear, upgrade my armor, my tools, and get my Hell Zephyr airborne. I enacted my master plan by taking out some of the big bosses. And with the trophies they drop, I bought a bunch of berries to keep my pals fed, for a little while at least. Feeding my base will always be an uphill battle, and I not intend to lose. In my last video, someone had mentioned that you can unlock an ore mining pit, which was similar to the stone mining pit. And to my surprise, you can unlock this thing really early. So I unlocked it, and it took top priority in getting built. Once I had an unlimited metal resource, I'm sure the game would change, and things would get a little bit easier. This was it. This was the goal I needed. So, with new purpose and a fire in my belly, I set out to farm some raw ore to smelt into bars so I could get that ore pit built. Luckily for me, metal spawned right next to this angry woman on the hill where you start the game. And in no time, I had mined all that I would need to get this pit built. I returned back to base and started my pals on smelting the ore. And I left again to try my hand at catching a Sootseer finally. This time, I did. I had finally caught one. This one act, this one Sootseer, would change things for me forever. On day 39, I smelted all the metal I had farmed up until this point, and with that, I upgraded my base once more, allowing me a larger PAL workforce. But adding more PALs to my base would be a double-edged sword, you see. The more PALs, the more food I'd have to balance. With that in mind, I'd constantly do a juggling act of PAL workforce ratios for a little while. From another egg that was incubating, I managed to get myself an actual suit seer to hatch, so now I had 2. This was amazing. 2 is always better than 1. By the time this 100 days is up, I'm probably going to have a base full of these things if I can help it. Since I had 2 suit seers ready to go, I placed down 2 ore pits. My plan was to have a suit seer stationed at each, and then I would throw in some tombats to go with them. Hopefully this would work until I could get my creepy hands on more suit seers, or even better, an Astagon. Now I know what you're thinking. Kindling 3. And it's being wasted on them by farming ore. Yeah, you'd be right, except there is no ore to smelt, so it doesn't matter right now. Listen, not everyone can be a god at Palworld like you, okay, Sean? You know what would be better than 2 suit seers? Yes, 3 suit seers. At night, I returned back to the Sakurajima graveyard and proceeded to waste all of my pal spears trying to catch 1 suit seer. This is what the youth would call a certified bruh moment, I do believe. With that absolute beating I took last night, I just stayed at my base and made a lot of nails. Would I ever need this many? Probably not. Would I come to regret making this many nails? More than likely. With those nails, I crafted a high quality workbench and finally crafted myself an overshield. We're 40 days into this thing and I finally made one. Wowee. A lot of my pals were starting to get really cranky. Trying to appease them with burnt berries wasn't cutting it anymore, and I had to resort to spending a lot of gold on pal fluids. The idea was to make a few more hot tubs to try and offset their sanity drain from a poor diet. I didn't know if this would actually work, but it was worth a shot. I was grasping at straws here. Apparently, as I'm watching the footage, my suit seer really didn't like the merchant that was living here, which is kind of funny, because I don't like him either. So, one slight annoyance that I've noticed is that you can unlock the Hell Zephyr saddle before you have the ability to smelt refined metal ingots. I know it's just a level or 2 away. As I pondered this slight oversight, I rooted around in more trash to pass the time. Mayor Wraith and I were running along the beach looking for trash when all of a sudden this prickster, which is a very unfortunate name, charged us and sent us both flying into the deep ocean. Well, nothing left to do but swim back, I guess, and think about life. When we got back to shore, I saw a Hell Zephyr Lux, and I would eventually need electric pals to power my base, so I readied myself for battle. Then, you guessed it, I blew through all of my pal spheres. Oh, this is so dumb. I have been collecting Liftmonk effigies before anyone says anything in the comments. I upgraded my capture rate to 15%, and I'm still having these issues. Back at base, since I started to have an abundance of metal, I upgraded my rinky-dink campfire into a cooking pot. And I think it goes without saying that this thing cooks food faster. But why stop there? Next, I upgraded my armor finally, from pelts and furs to full-blown metal. Hopefully, with these upgrades, I won't die as much. I also had the ability to upgrade my forges to the improved forge, however I was low on fire organs, and I knew just where to farm them. Mount Obsidian. I can just never escape this place, it seems. So for the rest of the day, I sat at the base of Mount Obsidian and farmed some flame organs. My bad luck when it comes to catching pals followed me into day 43. The Blaze Howl Noct has Kindling 3, and since I wouldn't get a Yormantide Ignis ever in this playthrough, which has Kindling 4, this was one of the next best things. Of course, there's Sootseer too. I just thought he looked cool. Oh well, I guess I'll just try again later. Despite these setbacks, I finally crafted that improved furnace, and this would allow me to craft refined metal ingots, used for more advanced recipes, like my Hell Zephyr saddle. I was going a bit crazy too because I needed coal of all things to make refined ingots, and I had none on hand. Look man, I just wanted to get into the sky. All these setbacks are hindering me. After running around for a bit and screaming, I found a coal node next to my base. Well, that was easy. And while waiting for Wixen to smelt the refined metal ingots, I upgraded my tools to metal finally. Hey, it took 43 days, but it's better late than never, right? Day 44. Apparently, I did nothing today. I just sat at base and waited for metal to smelt. So let's get right into day 45. I was so close to getting my Hell Zephyr saddle crafted, but I was still missing a few ingredients. Like electric organs? Why? When you picture this thing, do you see electricity? Because I sure don't. I guess maybe the designs on its wings? Oh well, I can just stand around at base all day complaining about it, or I could just go out and farm them, which is exactly what I did. I went to the area where Univolt usually spawn in, where they would spawn in abundance and I could farm all the organs I needed, but I made one crucial mistake. I came at night, and that means they're less likely to spawn. I was still searching for Univolts into day 46, and I found none whatsoever. On day 47, my luck would finally change for the better, and I found plenty of Univolts and began harvesting electric organs. After about a few minutes of farming, I had all that I needed to craft my Hellzephyr saddle, and we both headed back home to get it done. All that struggle, all of that suffering would finally pay off. My friends, this was the sweetest maiden flight I have ever enjoyed in any 100 Days video. The pain I went through was so worth it. I was so happy to be in the air. I flew around Sakurajima Island for the rest of the night doing a victory lap, collecting Lifmunk statues, and of course, sorting through trash. Life was good. So, it finally happened. Whenever I make a 100 Days video, there's always going to be some inevitable scuff, and today was that day. I forgot to record a little bit of day 48. All I can do is tell you that I caught a Hellzephyr Lux, the electric version of the Hellzephyr. Soon I was going to be leaving the Dark Ages behind and needed an electric pal at my base, and well, this new variant of Hellzephyr fit the bill. Which is great for me, because if they didn't have a dark electric pal type, I would never be able to kit myself out in endgame gear. On another note, I made a really dumb decision by trying to fight this lucky Kickit. As you can imagine, given my level and its level, it did not go well for me. Day 49 was a day committed to projects around the base. It was not a matter of want, but a need to put up my walls and gates. Since my base was right on the edge of the Sakura forest here on Sakurajima Island, I would constantly have the odd Yakumo or Bushi Noct wander into the base, and they'd end up breaking stuff or incapacitating my pals. So with haste, I put up a gateway. Do you see what I mean? As I'm looking through my menus, a Yakumo was looking at making me into a snack. While I was at it, I felt it was time to give my base some much needed TLC. I wanted to move some things around and build myself a big house and keep things a bit more organized. So began the long process of breaking things down and moving them around. As I was diligently working away on my new base layout, another meteorite fell down from the heavens, blessing me with another chance to catch a saline. I've been ignoring them for the majority of this playthrough after I caught the one, and they're kind of starting to pile up, so I gotta do something about this. They have Handiwork 3, I should probably start catching them to help out around the base. Doing everything by myself was getting a little tedious. Wow, that was a really short day today. I've noticed with Palworld 100 Days videos that things tend to slow down a bit at the halfway mark. Usually all the hard stuff to do is out of the way, and it's smooth sailing until day 100, so if the days become a bit shorter, please bear with me. Thank you. Like on day 51, I'm still building. And it's like this for the next few days. I don't have to talk too much. I won't complain, it's easy on the old voice box. So here's a little building montage for the next few days to some royalty-free tunes like Dispersion Relation by Kevin MacLeod. Well, that's all I'm going to do for now. I think my little man cave looks really cozy. I'd definitely read a book in here while sitting ominously in front of the fireplace for sure. Speaking of reading, I read the original Dracula by Bram Stoker. And did you know in the original story, Dracula gets inconvenienced by bread? Yeah, actual bread. Dracula also tried to steal another man's fiancée by turning her into a vampire. How crazy. I could be wrong though. I read the Dracula book like, what, 20 years ago at this point? Might be time for another reread, who knows. Also, on another completely unrelated thing, the T-Rex in the Lost World of Jurassic Park never went to San Diego. That was all fabricated by Hollywood and Steven Spielberg. In truth, both of the parent tyrannosaurs never left Isla Sorna. I thought you should know, in case you didn't read the book. I mean, I didn't. I listened to it on an audiobook. Alright, I'll stop waffling on about books. I'm sorry. I just get carried away in a tangent. So here's the base. All the building, and the base looks like, well, yeah, that's something, I guess. It's better than living in a small hovel in absolute squalor. Day 55, and I was so close to unlocking the coal mine. I was lucky enough to have a coal node spawn inside my base, but it wasn't enough to suit my needs. I was entering the refined middle age here at my base, and fresh coal will be a key ingredient to a lot of these recipes that were coming up, so I needed to unlock things ASAP. I also had a plan to catch one of the best mining pals in the entire game. You probably know him, the ever affable Astagon. You can catch him two ways. You can bang your head against the wall trying to catch him in Mount Obsidian, or you can try to catch him in one of the wildlife sanctuaries. I chose the latter, because every time I try to fight the boss Astagon, something always goes horribly wrong. With great intrepidation, I began flying over the desiccated desert. While flying over the ocean, I accidentally ran into the Palworld Combat Arena. None of my friends play Palworld, so this area is kind of wasted on me. It's just Pokemon Stadium, basically. Alright, I'm just moving on. After flying all night, I had finally made it to Dune Shelter. I was here for two things. The fast travel was one of them, and another merchant to capture. One of these guys in here sells vegetables of all kinds and other stuff that will be important for later. Capturing the merchant was easier said than done. This merchant was just built different because he escaped 3 of my legendary Pal Spheres. Yes, you heard that right. 3. The quote-unquote strongest Palsphere ever created. These things were made specifically to catch godlike beings, and they can't even catch some dude named Terrence. A quick relog later, and here we are again. This time, I was going to make sure he went quietly. I hit him a few times to get him to cooperate with me, but this time the guards killed him. I relogged again, and tried one more time. Oh my gosh, they got him again! With enough Pal Balls and determination, I somehow managed to catch the extra merchant I needed, and I left this wicked den in the desert. I needed him because he specifically sells lettuce and tomato. While separate, these two ingredients are pretty unremarkable, but when combined into a simple salad, it turns pals into working machines. Salad gave a big boost to work speed and restored a ton of sanity, doubling work efficiency of pals and humans. And now, since we're well over halfway done with this video, it was time to kick things into a bit of overdrive. I still wanted to catch Necromus and Bella Noir before day 100, and we were cutting it really close. Slowly, I flew my way over to the Wildlife Sanctuary and unlocked the Desert Tower fast travel, because hey, you never know. I might take a crack at some tower bosses later still, who knows? Not me. I don't really plan these videos out, they just kinda happen. Before heading off into the Wildlife Sanctuary, I needed to replenish some of my Pal Spheres, and spent the morning of day 57 doing just that. Instant transmission! Here I was, in the Wildlife Sanctuary, looking for an Astagon. I don't really like catching the Alpha Astagon at Mount Obsidian because he gets caught in the walls, and it always never ends well for me. If you've seen my 2 other Palworld videos, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. So here I am, avoiding the situation altogether. It's like the Pal gods had heard my prayer. I didn't have to even look for very long for an Astagon. And yes, I actually managed to catch it. Surprisingly, this was very easy. Usually when I fight these things, it all just goes so horribly wrong. Something told me to hold my horses and stay at the sanctuary. And I'm glad I listened, because here was a Shadowbeak begging me to be caught. And friends, let me tell you, there is little in this life that tastes sweeter than a victory. I caught the Shadowbeak, the best non-legendary pal in the game. Oh, I also got an Incineram knocked, but that's not as cool as a Shadowbeak. My Shadowbeak needed a friend, so before packing it up and sending it home, I doubled down and caught another one. I flew around a bit longer trying to find another Astagon, but my pals were starving, so I headed back home. Yet I was content at the progress that I had made, and I won't complain. I put our new merchant friend to work and made myself a salad to fend off starving to death myself. And I took some much needed rest and relaxed for the rest of the day. First things first, I placed down a tomato plantation. I don't know why I highlighted it with such emphasis in my notes, but hey, here we are. As I've been leveling, I've invested some points into work speed, and it seems to help a bit with planting and the watering process. Since I was already pretty tanky, I had over 1,000 pounds of carry weight, I would just throw more points into work speed. Normally, I wouldn't even consider such a thing, but I didn't have any water pals, and the crops weren't going to, water themselves. Just don't ask where the water comes from. You know what's been bugging me for a while now? How come they made a dark ice, dark electric, dark earth, dark dragon, and even a dark grass pal, but they didn't bother to make a dark water pal? It seems like a lost opportunity. Imagine a really badass kraken pal, that would be sick. And with that, I spent the rest of the night just watering plants and growing food for our base. As I was toiling the soil like some kind of serf, a supply drop graced my presence, which I wasn't going to complain. I needed a break from planting anyway. It was a super short day today, I guess. I was just farming for most of it, and at some point I flew over to the snowy mountains to catch myself a Lylene knock. I wanted to reroll my stats eventually to stat dump into work speed, and Lylene was proficient in working the medicine bench. I'm really bad at the lead up, so here's me fighting the Lylene knocked, and after one intense fight I managed to catch her. I threw my spare skill points into work speed of course, and now gardening is slightly less mind-numbing, just like real life. However, I still had a few levels to gain before I hit the level cap of 55, and so I sallied forth into the Palworld to fight bosses for their experience, and to make some extra gold. I was a monster hunter of sorts, I suppose. 100 days monster hunter? Let me know in the comments. After spending the better half of 24 hours putting pals in the dirt, my inventory was becoming cluttered with a bunch of garbage. Off I went to the small settlement to lighten the load and fatten my purse. While clearing junk, I just remembered my pendant that I got from a supply drop at some point. I don't remember if I talked about it earlier in the video, and I'm not going to check, but basically, here's what this bad boy does. It adds a certain percentage bonus to my work speed. So you might be saying to yourself, wow, that's kinda busted. And yes, it absolutely is busted. You'll see a bit later on in the video. I eventually get to the point where I can outwater any water pal, and I can outplant any gardening pal. It's insane. After a quick rest, I was off again to smite more pals for their trophies and experience. Eventually, I found myself fighting the Katress Arena boss, and I just couldn't bring myself to kill her, so I caught her instead. We believe in Katress supremacy on this channel. I was fighting more bosses today. My bloodlust was not slate quite yet, so here's the Broncherry Aqua boss, Fanglope, Relaxosaurus Lux, then the Quiverin boss. Man, this sucks. I really like Quiverin a lot. Too bad I can't catch him this time. Oh well. Back at base, I sold all of the trophies that I had accumulated and made a tidy profit. Still not as good as outright decimating black market merchants, but it was good enough to get by. My base was still lacking some of the crafting stations I needed, so with the help of my pals, we began rebuilding my production line. And then it was back out into the wide world again. I stopped by the fishing village at Mount Obsidian to see if the merchant was worth capturing. Nay, he staved off my pal balls for now, but that could potentially change on a whim. We shall see. The heavens graced me with yet another supply drop, and I even got a few work speed elixirs too, making me even more broken. How delightful. Another day, another chance to add a pal merchant to my ever-growing collection. This time, it was one of the merchants at the small settlement. I did try to catch this dude a few times. It was a slippery little bugger, but with enough persistence and a lot of luck, I eventually did catch him. Now that I had this pal trader that sold electric organs, my collection was pretty much complete and I could just buy resources on a whim now, instead of hopping around the world farming for some, like these pal fluids, for example. I bought a lot of them and completely got hosed on gold. At least, the silver lining is I don't gotta worry about farming for them for a little while. With all these pal fluids I had purchased, I made a few lettuce plantations, and finally I could make the most goated food in all of Palworld. Salad. Cheap, plentiful, and overpowered. I had finally felt peace for once. Up until this point, we had been struggling to sustain. Food was always scarce, and the scare with that Bushi knocked a few paragraphs ago, and yet things were still tranquil. Things were going a little too well. See, I managed to unlock and place a few coal mines now. Then, the rest of the night was dedicated to playing catch up with my base upgrades, and making sure I had enough food to last me for a little while, so I could go out and explore Palworld guilt-free, knowing that my little pals were never going to go hungry again, or turn on each other in desperation. A lot of things that happened on day 68 were really scarce. I was in the groove and found my stride. I bought some electric organs from a merchant and placed down a generator. And now that I had the wonders of electricity, I placed down some electric lamps to keep my base lit up at night. Oh, I guess not. It appears when you leave a certain radius, the lights turn off automatically. Well, that's lame. The whole point of making these things is to keep things bright. Oh well, kind of let down, but it's not a crushing letdown. Day 69. Nice. The zone activities continued into the funny number day, and I placed down the final boss of cooking stoves and made myself a sphere assembly line. I would scarcely use it, but it's what the PAL box compelled me to do, and I am one to obey. On day 70, the base catch-up continued. I let things fall way too far behind than I anticipated. I was doing my best to get things done, and all these little distractions kept getting in my way. You'll see. I was trying to place down my assembly lines, and this Baka ninja teleported himself into my base, causing all of my pals to erupt in a wild frenzy. I couldn't do much about him now, at the moment, so I just kind of left him be. It only took 70 days, but I finally made myself a feed bag for my pals. Yes, I know, I'm the greatest Palworld player on Earth. I know it's true, yes. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, thank you. You can all stop clapping now. Day 71 started like any other. I was out and about in the lovely Sakura forest, farming for Paldium fragments for an up-and-coming project. While farming, I noticed another saline and tried to catch it, but I accidentally ended up killing it. Oops. Anyway, back at base, I crafted a production assembly line and called it good for the day. After spending a great deal of time farming for spheres and trash piles and chests, I returned to base to clear out my inventory. The plan for today was to farm quartz in the snowy mountains. I had to craft a ton of circuit boards later, so off I went into the snowy wastes. I spent the rest of day 72 into day 73 farming all the quartz I could carry and headed back home to get started on my projects. Like, dropping the fattest... What am I writing anymore, man? Like, dropping the fattest sphere assembly line. Why did I write that? What? Sounds... What? Yes, straight into day 74, and I'm still crafting this thing, but once it was complete, I started making a ton of carbon fiber so I could make my very own ultra spheres. To me, this was a huge relief, mostly because I wouldn't have to spend my precious time farming trash piles for decent pal spheres. Sure, legendary spheres were nice, however, you could definitely get by without them. And after much toil, trouble, and everything else in between, I walked away with 12 ultra spheres. It's a start at least. Despite my better judgment, I flew over to Mount Obsidian again, and I wanted to get the Astegon boss. Now, as I have mentioned ad nauseum at this point, every time I try to fight this guy, things tend to go a little awry. For example, Astegon can attack you through cave walls. Heck, he can even phase into the cave walls, making him impossible to capture. So, fingers crossed that doesn't happen. When I got there, I engaged in a fight with the Astegon. Well, when I say I really mean my Saline and my other pals. I really didn't do much to help. When Astegon was weakened to the point of capture, I threw an Ultra Sphere, and another, and another. Before too long, I threw all of my spheres, and every single time he broke out. I hate this game. Left with little option, I just returned home, so I could make even more spheres and tend to my crops. I needed this moment of zen. I am a warrior in a garden. The tomatoes are my enemy, and the lettuce, my children. Day 76 and I was still watering my crops. Even with all the work speed boosts, it still takes a decent chunk of time. Then I crafted more Ultra Spheres and headed back to Mount Obsidian to try the Astegon boss fight once again. While flying over, I saw this fast travel beacon, and this one's new, right? Has this one always been here? I really need to start reading the patch notes for this game. Well, here we are, back at the Astegon boss arena. Yeah, I caught it this time. Didn't even break a sweat. As punishment for causing me so much undue stress, I sent him to work in the mines for all of eternity. Or something like that. The pals don't even obey your commands on a good day. A bit later, I went back to the graveyard to catch another Suitseer. Some of you may be wondering, Glahm, why so many Suitseer? I just think they're neat, okay? Come on, it's almost Halloween, you gotta get into the spirit. And they're ghosts with goofy skulls and torches for hands. What more do you want? Oh, I also caught another Saline, so that's cool, I guess. A whole lot of nothing went on today, I guess. My notes are sparse. I caught a Suitseer and just kind of sat around base watering crops, apparently. On day 79, I finally had accrued enough resources to build an ore pit, and I really underestimated the size of this thing. Holy moly, it is huge. But the bright side is that with all this metal I was now gathering, I could finally upgrade my armor to refined pal metal armor. Honestly, I feel like I'm a bit behind with this run, not gonna lie, gang. Around this time I usually have plasteel, I'm pretty sure. We're getting there. Just you wait. The agenda today was to make a lot of polymer, and for that I needed a lot of pal oil. Well, guess what? I wasn't about to go and farm all that, so I just went broke and hosed myself again, spending all of my shiny, clinky gold at this merchant and bought a ton of pal oil. I guess while we were making polymer, a supply drop had landed near me again, and my notes said, amazing supply drop, so I'm just gonna have to take my own word for it. Wow, this is so good, you guys. Amazing, huge, epic. Smash that like button. Nah, I'm just kidding. Imagine if I was really like that. I spent all of day 81 picking flowers. My project to create an elixir to let me reroll my stats was the utmost priority. Eventually, I had picked all of the flowers in this wildlife sanctuary, so now it was time to move on. This took up a good portion of the day, and there's really not much else to talk about. On my way over to one of the other wildlife sanctuaries, I found back-to-back dark eggs, and I was excited to see what these would hatch into a little bit later. A quick jog up the hill, and oh, look at that, a black market merchant. If he were a snake, he would have jumped out and bit me because I didn't even notice him at first. So I strung him up and stole his gold, as you do. I also found this dog coin guy too. With these two master strokes of power, I was now the richest pal tamer in the land. I had a whopping 50,000 gold to my name, and I would put these coins to good use later. We weren't done winning yet today. There was a lucky depresso of all things. Today, I really did hit the jackpot. My travels eventually led me to the very top of Mount Obsidian, and I saw a Xenoguard, and I caught it. Much to my horror, I discovered that Xenoguard is, in fact, not a dark dragon pal, he's just a dragon pal, thus making my self-imposed challenge null and void, ruining 2 weeks of recording and dooming my YouTube channel back to the Stygian pit of small channel hell. Skirting around the base of the volcano, I also caught this Pyrrha Noct that I would never use. What a shame. Yeah, I'm back out here picking more flowers. Back at base, I crafted a hip lantern to see better in the endless night. Then I crafted 2 egg incubators to hatch the dark eggs that I had found a while ago. As I was crafting them, a supply drop fell from the sky, and it was great. Honestly, I haven't had a bad drop yet. It contained even more speed elixirs, which of course, you know, boosts my work speed, and I'll take all that I can get. With those 2 speed elixirs drank down, my work speed was now well over 1,000. Day 85, I earned myself a bit of rest. I took today to just chill at base and look over my works and enjoy the fruits of my labors. I didn't stick around for too long though. I had flowers to go and pick, and after 20 minutes of picking and dodging really angry pals, I was done, and I could finally craft that Forgetting elixir. I swiftly returned home. I bought all the horns and bones I needed to get this potion crafted and set my Line Noct on the task. To speed her on her quest, I also crafted a witch's cauldron. This allows a small boost to pals to work more efficiently at the chemistry station. And since it's Halloween, it makes a little nice decoration as well. Come on, Pocket Pear, give us some seasonal decorations. Come on, man. I placed down an electric furnace, and honestly this thing needs little introduction. It allowed me to craft pal metal ingot, and it just smelted stuff faster. I was nearing the end game now, and my set of refined pal armor just wouldn't cut it for what I had planned. When I was done, the 2 dark eggs that I had been incubating hatched into 2 tombats. What a letdown. Look, nothing wrong with tombat, but I was needing something with a bit more heft. Tombat next to Astagon? You're gonna take the Astagon. Unless you're a contrarian who wants to be different for the sake of being different, then you're just being pedantic at this point. Today was also a day of relaxation. With the help of my pals, I crafted an upgraded hot spring and sat in it, enjoying the soothing warmth of the hot bath, letting the previous 87 days melt away, and I took a moment to just enjoy myself, armor on and all. Then I crafted myself a sword. Is the sword a good melee weapon? I honestly don't know. I rarely use it at all, but it's there and it looks cool. So what's the harm, right? Also, since my pals were hard at work for the last 20 or so days farming metal, I decided to convert that metal into legal tender, gold coins. I set my pals on the task of creating an obscene amount of nails. Crafting nails was good for 2 reasons. You can sell them to a vendor for a quick bit of cash, and if you craft them en masse, you get a ton of experience points as well. It's literally a win-win situation. While my soothsayers diligently smelted metal back at base, I traveled to the snowy mountains to farm even more quartz. It was a short trip, and as soon as I had arrived, another meteor fell from the sky, and absolute chaos erupted. Yeah, I paid it no mind and set out to farming as much quartz as I could carry. Day 89 and another BMM wasn't spared my wrath. I needed gold, baby, and lots of it. I got a few of these guys today, made out with a tidy profit too. All of that gold that I had won by right of conquest was used to purchase a ton of pal oil. I needed to make a lot of polymer in the coming days. Crafting polymer is what I did for the rest of the day, so let's just go on to day 90. Eileen finally got that potion done. Bit late though, we only got 10 more days until this whole thing wraps up like a burrito. But still, at least it got done. After gulping that tonic down, I re-rolled my stats and threw the majority into work speed, and now I was sitting well over 2,000 work speed. With my newfound powers, I crafted a lot of nails, and let me tell ya, I was bursting at the seams with experience now. For day 91, I just sat at base and crafted nails. While hard at work, I was raided, and guess what? Yeah, my pals ate them for lunch. Serves them right. Ta-da! A PAL assembly line 2. Well, a lot of good this thing's gonna do me. XD. I suppose I had better farm some palladium fragments to make spheres. I'll check y'all later into day 93. In the background of this entire 100 days, I had been collecting Bella Noir tome fragments, and I was saving them for a rainy day. Well, today it's looking a bit cloudy. So I crafted the consumable to summon the Bella Noir boss. With this summoning altar, I would beckon her into our plane of existence and fight her for a chance at gaining my very own Bella Noir. I was super nervous. My pals were just wild caught, and they had no boosts. I readied myself and sacrificed the tome on the altar, summoning in Bella Noir. The fight raged all through the night, and the forest around us was destroyed. I lost a few good pals in that fight, but eventually, we came out on top, victorious. And in the chaos, the Bella Noir boss dropped an egg for me to hatch back at base. I rushed back to base to get it hatched. Day 94. I threw that egg into the incubator and waited for it to hatch. Unbeknownst to me, apparently you can force feed pals to make them happy. Well, I hope this little fellow likes a salad. Honestly, I don't really have a follow-up on this one-liner. I'm just very tired. I've been editing for like 20 hours straight. The egg dropped from Bella Noir hatched into the Bella Noir. I don't know what else to say, really. I wouldn't really use her at all, but at least she looked pretty. Later on, I caught a prickster finally. The name is still dumb, and the description is even dumber. I really wanted to catch Necromus to wrap up this 100 days in a nice bow before shipping it off to the mercy of the YouTube algorithm. And to make my odds a bit better, I needed a lot of legendary spheres. And that required a lot of cement. So I began crafting all the cement I could eat just to get it done. I eventually left the task to my pals, and I walked the perimeter of my property when I noticed that one of my walls was on fire. I have no idea how or why. We were 3 days out from the end of the video, and I'm starting to get a bit nervous. After farming the palladium fragments I needed to make legendary spheres, I got a really good supply drop. This particular drop, I was given plasteel armor blueprints, so I ran home to make it real quick. For my last few Palworld videos, I only played as women, so this is my first time really getting a good look at the male version of the armor. I gotta say, looks pretty spiffy. Now that I was all dripped out, I headed off once again to the desert to catch Necromus. It was time. I spent all of day 99 building this crazy trap. I saw it in a YouTube video once. The idea is to lead Necromus or Palladius around this campfire merry-go-round and catch them on fire, and when their health drops low enough, we can catch them. Easy peasy. A sound plan. On paper anyway. Tomorrow, we will see if it works. And now, for the finale. I got Necromus's attention and was doing really well with this trap, till the unthinkable happened. Oh no. I had failed. I couldn't catch Necromus before day 100. But I wasn't gonna quit just yet. Day 101, I remade the trap, and I will return at night while Palladius is asleep. And on the cusp of day 102, I returned. I had an intense game of cat and mouse with Necromus, and then, after much suffering, he was finally mine. Well, my friends, that's a wrap on another 100 Days video. If you liked it, it would mean the world to me to leave a like, and share it with your friends. What games would you like to see me play next? Let me know in the comments below. As always, I've been Glahm, signing off.